All right, why don't we pick up then, okay? So, the insurance company, as far as how it's organized, has a couple big departments. One is rate making, that's the actuarial department. That's where they set the insurance rates, okay, the insurance premiums. The actuaries do that. Underwriting is where risk selection takes place. The underwriters decide, yes, we're going to insure that risk. That's a risk where we can provide coverage and make money. So the underwriters say yes or no as far as whether the carrier is going to insure the risk, okay? And claims, of course, when a company has a claim, they have a loss of some kind, claims goes out and investigates the loss and tries to get it resolved, okay? So those are the main departments of the insurance company. So let's take a look at like one of the risks, just apply those criteria. Let's take a look at liability. Okay? Say we're talking about slips and falls for a retailer, a slips and falls type exposure.
Is this still chapter 9?
This is chapter 9, yeah. So let's walk through the different criteria. Liability claims, are they a pure risk?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, they're not really a speculative risk. Somebody slips and falls, they hurt themselves, right? Are they fortuitous?
They should be, unless they're illegal.
Right. Unless it's fraud, unless somebody is faking a fall. But generally, they should be fortuitous. That is accidental and unintended from the standpoint of the insured, right? Are they definite and measurable? Yeah, I guess so too. When did you fall? Where did you fall? Right? So that would be definite and measurable. Are there a large number of exposure units? Well, if you're the insurance company, yeah, sure there are. Because most businesses, right, most retailers, they all want liability insurance. You have a large number of exposure units. Are the exposures independent and not catastrophic?
I have a question. This list is like the same as the liabilities claim list that we're doing now and the characteristics of insurable risk. Why are they the same?
That's exactly what we're doing. We're taking those criteria and we're asking the question, is liability an insurable risk?
Oh, okay, so it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
All right, I was just a little confused.
Yes, we're taking the same criteria and we're applying it. Just like Kwong said, well, flood must not be insurable because it's catastrophic to the insurer potentially. Yes, that's right. That is right. When you apply those criteria to flood, well, boom, you hit that, catastrophic one, this one, and you conclude, you know what, it's not really insurable. So now we're looking at liability claims, and we're asking, is this insurable from the standpoint of an insurance company? Yes?
Is this for all liability claims or just for like a slip and fall?
This is for all liability. I think in terms of slips and falls, but it could be for all liability. Are they independent and not catastrophic? Yes, they are. You don't have 100, you don't have 1,000 people falling at the same time, do you? I mean, these are generally independent events. Are the premiums feasible? I can tell you they are, okay? So what do we conclude in this? We conclude that liability insurance is insurable. Liability risks are insurable. How about, let's talk about life insurance. Let's see how that works. Is it a pure risk? Yes, I would say it is. Is it fortuitous? What's the only time it's not fortuitous?
Suicide?
That's right, suicide. And how do the insurance companies handle that?
2 years.
That's right, they exclude it. It's excluded for 2 years.
What does that mean, 2 years? I don't understand that.
So as soon as you get into the claim, the insurance policy, you have to wait 2 years before you can kill yourself.
That's exactly right.
Oh, okay. I was thinking the opposite, like the family wouldn't get anything for 2 years or something, but so you're saying is that way they don't. Okay, got it.
Right.
So you just have to
Still get the money, just
be
wait 2
depressed for a
years.
while.
Well, you have
Wait
to pay
two-
premiums for 2 years.
Yeah.
That's true, you have to pay premiums.
Huge policy, you're paying huge premiums for 2 years, but I feel that's Star Trek.
2 years you'd have, so, try to picture yourself saying to Kurt Cobain, Kurt, don't do it, not for at least 2 years. Would he have waited? Probably not, right? But yeah, what they're trying to do is they're trying to prevent fraud. Somebody who buys the policy with the intention of killing themselves and then leaving the money to the beneficiary. 2 years is what the law allows. And you know what? If somebody kills themselves after that, they made that decision later, not when they bought the policy. See what I mean? So it's fortuitous, this risk of life, of death, of somebody dying and collecting on a life policy is fortuitous, generally, except for the one we just talked about, the aspect of suicide. Is it definite and measurable? Sure. When somebody dies, right? The doctor has to say, right? The doctor has to sign a death certificate and say, this person died on this date. So it is definite and measurable. Are there a large number of exposure units?
Yes.
There's a lot of people, right? A lot of lives out there. Is it independent and not catastrophic? Yes, that's right, generally.
Now, what if it wasn't independent? Would they not pay for it? Would the government step in at that point, or no, they just don't get paid?
Well, you just wouldn't be able to get insurance, that's all. So, for example, suppose the insurance companies, like with 9/11, right? About 3,000 people died in that building. So that was not independent. 3,000 people died at one time, right? They all died on the same day. So that they didn't independently die. They didn't die on different days. So that was not independent, and it did cause a big loss. It was a huge life insurance loss there to the life carriers. But if they ever took the position, well, you know what, from now on, we're not insuring people who work in high rises. If they ever did something like that, it would just make life insurance harder to get, harder to get. I don't know if the government would step in unless it really got bad.
Oh, like race car drivers maybe have a hard time getting life insurance or
Yeah.
something like that because.
Yeah, certain occupations do, that's right. Juan?
So does the government step in to let the soldier buy insurance, life insurance?
You mean would they step in and provide the life insurance? If they thought it was really bad, yes.
Soldiers.
Oh, for soldiers, yes, they do. They do. Soldiers, war is an exclusion on all life policies. So soldiers who die in the military in combat, they're covered by a government-provided GI life insurance. It's exactly right. Very good.
Would you consider it speculative risk as well? Because you're gaining, like let's say, like $1 million policy, it's like winning. I mean, not like, well, based on that, whoever gets the money.
No. You're valuing your life at a certain dollar amount, and that's what they're paying. I understand what you're saying, that somebody gains. Somebody potentially gains. Your beneficiary gains. And in that sense, could it be considered a speculative risk? But that's not how they look at it. They look at it that somebody values the life, the insurance company has to agree to it, and when they die, they get paid that amount. So they don't look at it as a speculative risk, but a speculative risk is something that can go up in value, okay? It can go up in value. Like gold is a speculative risk. You buy it and you're hoping that it's going to go up in value, right? Okay. And are the premiums feasible? Yes, generally the premiums are feasible. So I think you get the idea. So if I ask you to do this, right? If I ask you to do this on a quiz or a final, then you should be able to do it.
Would you give us an example of what that's not? Risk, that's, you know.
Well, you could say well, we already talked about it. How about earthquake?
Oh, okay. So,
Right.
so something like
Yeah, something
natural,
like that.
national
That's right.
disasters.
Something like earthquake insurance, where it's a pure risk, it's fortuitous, it's definite and measurable, but it's not independent. And it can be catastrophic to the insurer. Yes?
But there are some risks that don't fit this criteria that are still insured, right? So, for example, how you said life insurance all the time isn't fortuitous, but insurers handle that in some way. And on our homework, it was one of the things that was not, it was catastrophic, but he was handling it some other way. So would that be considered insurable or not insurable? If it doesn't fit the criteria, but it can be handled some other way, if that makes sense.
You're talking about Bashir with the drought insurance, right? Yeah, Bashir was handling the risk that he was facing of adverse selection. Right? Because if everybody in the one area bought the insurance and they all have the same drought, right? The drought affects all of them in that geography the same way, he'd be out of business. So what did he do to reduce that risk of being knocked out of business by one drought?
Well, insure the grass.
But that leaves them in the same place though.
They said
Use the data.
Spreading it out.
To
That's
different
right.
areas.
That's right. He spread it out to different areas. He started selling
Well, he said
the
he was
insurance in
trying.
northern Kenya, southern Ethiopia. So they're paying him money, right? If there's a drought in Kenya, it's not going to affect them, so he lives. He survives, right? That's how he was doing it. So that goes to your point that a drought generally is not independent and it can be catastrophic, but that's how he dealt with it.
So on the test, on the quiz.
Would it be
Mark,
yes
yeah.
insurable or no not insurable?
It depends what peril you're talking about.
Or a drought, so you would say non-insurable. Unless you give like specific details, like, well, he hasn't spread it out, it's not a big deal if he hasn't spread out.
No, I think you answer it the same exact way we just discussed it, just like you just said. You say drought is not really independent and it can be catastrophic. However, it's still insurable as long as the insurer is spreading its risk to other geographies. I think it's exactly what you said.